Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Stoner, the newly created enhancement review procedures it is the EPA, not the Corps, that determines permit review criteria and timeless for insurance of coal mining section and 404 permits. So who's making the ultimate determination of those permits? The Corps, the EPA regional offices, EPA headquarters, or the administrator?
Normally, decisions about Corps 404 permits are made by the Corps.
By the Corps?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's enough. What authority was EPA acting under when it was created new enhanced review procedures instead of the Corps regulations to process certain coal permits selected by EPA? What authority?
Yeah, it didn't take away the authority of the Corps.
What authority did it act under?
This is intergovernmental relations within the executive.
What authority did the EPA act under?
We're acting under the Clean Water Act, our authority, the Corps'
So
authority.
you insert the Corps?
No, sir.
No,
sir.
That's what my interpretation. That's enough. Yes or no, do you believe that implementation of the enhanced review procedures represents a substantive change in our prior regulations? If yes, why didn't the agencies go through the formal rulemaking process to make these changes to the regulatory program, particularly since the CWA requires any changes to the 404B1 guidelines must be done through rulemaking?
They're not regulatory changes.
They're not. So you don't consider this a substantive change?
No, sir, they're not,
it's not
a regulatory
substantive change, yet you're overcoming the Corps.
And it doesn't overcome the Corps. We're working with the Corps.
The Corps doesn't agree with you.
Well, that's,
I've talked to the Corps. You're not working together. You are running roughshod as an agency. And I think you can tell that Congress understands that.
I meet with the Corps on a regular basis.
You meet with the Corps, but you're not working. You're dictating to the Corps.
We work
I'm just
closely
wondering. That's enough.
Congressman.
Under the MOA issued by the administration almost 2 years ago, the administration stated new procedures were necessary to streamline and coordinate the permitting process. And how do you explain that the new process has only resulted in issuance of 8 permits in nearly 2 years?
You're not counting the 42 that we issued immediately. More than 50 have been
issued. In 2 years, you issued 8 permits. After this was organized, 2 years, 8 permits. How is that a streamline? It's not a streamline, and you and I know it.
Since January of 2009, it's been more than 50.
Well, Ms. Stoner, I have to tell you, I am not a happy person with EPA. I think you've gone far beyond your authority. You have been dancing very well at this hearing. And what you're doing is using abuses of power against the legislative intent. I watched this in Alaska. You came in and set different standards on arsenic, which is natural. After we put a plan in 20 years ago, you changed it and cost the community $37 million to meet your standards without any science. The science you have is flawed. Now, what I'm suggesting in any state or any area to have a good set of scientists and contradict what you do. You have an agenda. Your agenda does not make this country productive. It takes away jobs from this country. We're not producing in this country, and you look at every time we try to produce something, you're involved. And your administrator is directly involved. This administration has a new agenda. The agenda is non-production. No working for the working man. People sitting in their little office making regulations. Mr. Chairman, this has to stop, and the only way it can stop is defund them. Go through each area and defund when it doesn't make sense, when the science is not there. When they don't listen to the other science, they use the science from the university to get the money from this Congress. And that's where we have to stop it. I yield back to Mr.
Thank you.